government and its citizens, acting as the primary interface for essential public services. If you go through Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, it guarantees the existence of the local government. It prescribes the structure, composition, finance, and functions of local government councils. However, their effectiveness hinges significantly on one crucial factor: financial autonomy. Financial autonomy of local governments is more of a myth than a reality in Nigeria. It is anticipated that the recent Supreme Court judgment in the case brought by the Attorney General of the Federation against the 36 states of Nigeria will reinforce the principle of true fiscal federalism. And this emphasizes that power and resources should be equitably distributed across various government levels. And this is just to ensure that governance is both efficient and effective. The Supreme Court, in its ruling, in its judgment of Thursday, 11 July 2024, in the AG Vet Federation versus AG Abia State and others, decided that the local governments can now directly receive their allocations from the Federation account by the functions of the local government set out in the fourth schedule of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. It becomes evident that the local government councils were typically created to be responsive, accountable, and serve as engines of economic growth and social development. The problem of implementation has always been the Achilles heel of the beautifully designed programs in our society. But this verdict will be a litmus test on the survival of democracy as a whole in Nigeria. It must be recalled that the previous administration of ex-president Muhammadu Buhari also made discernible efforts towards securing financial autonomy for the local governments. The immediate past government has directed the Accountant General of the Federation to pay the 774 local governments' funds directly into and not through any joint state and local government accounts using executive order, but the process failed due to opposition from the local government chairman. But it is therefore incumbent upon authorities concerned, including the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, to be vigilant at all times to make sure that erring local government chairmen are promptly brought to book to serve as a deterrent to others. The dimension of this verdict is that it has further exposed the third tier of government to the world, as many people will henceforth be interested in finding out what has changed. But of course, the local government councils will not change overnight to become the most progressive tier of government in the country. The challenges facing the implementation of the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy have assumed a new dimension, with some state governors explicitly warning their council chairmen against opening an account with the Central Bank of Nigeria for the direct payment of their allocations from the Federation account. The latest development represents yet another significant hurdle nearly 9 months after the Supreme Court granted full autonomy to the 774 local governments across the country, paving way for direct payment of federal allocations, part of the federal government's commitment to the Supreme Court judgment. Well, this morning on the agenda, I'll be engaging my guests. Once again, John Izuchukwu, it's good to have you on the agenda this morning, John.
Thank you, Chike, for having me, and good morning, Nigeria.
Well, local government autonomy. Yes, it's been, some will say it's been overflogged in the polity of the Nigerian state. However, it is what is bringing us back to square one now, as the dailies today reports that state governors have explicitly instructed local government councils not to open an account with the Central Bank of Nigeria. Well, if you trace the origin of this hula baloo or this imbroglio, you'll find out that there was a Supreme Court ruling in 2024. However, there were talking points from that ruling. Section 162 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, will tell you that that's a subsection 8, that the onus lies on state local government joint allocation, and that monies to be paid to local government councils must be approved by the state houses of assembly and paid through the state government. If that is not amended in the Constitution, how then will the Supreme Court judgment how will it pave way for the Supreme Court judgment to have its way in the polity of the Nigerian state?
Now, well, you see, it's very important that this conversation continues because at the very center of development to the grassroots. What is happening here is that the political actors are deliberately wanting to kill democracy in Nigeria. And so the question of local government financial autonomy as delivered in that judgment by Justice Emmanuel Ajim on the 11th of July 2024 was clear. In fact, part of that judgment is that the House of Assemblies do not have the powers anymore to determine, to make any law whatsoever that will regulate the financial status of the local government.
But do you want to ask that? I want to puncture you there. That question that statement you just made now, the houses of assemblies have no rights anymore. However, enshrining the Constitution is the powers of the House of Assembly to have those powers, to bear those powers in approving monies to the local governments. Are you then saying that there is a clash between the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Supreme Court judgment?
Chike, I do not know that section, but I want to tell you there's a section, whether it's section 144, 142, it was clearly stated that that was the section that talked about financial disbursement from the federal to the state and then to the local government. The three tiers of government had to receive their own funding. And don't forget the fact that local government autonomy did not start today. As far back as 1979, they were given the autonomy, but implementation had always been the problem. And the fact remains that the governors, they feel threatened that when these people are not given the right to have allocations, they are also demi-governors in their own quarters. But the question we should be asking is, how does all of this pan out for development, for bringing down the dividends of democracy to the grassroots? And so the people are the receiving end when these political gladiators, bring up their fights all the time. We are the ones who are the receiving end. So the issue now is we must now continue to engage every stakeholder to ensure that the judgment is followed. And I want to tell you that you cannot be undemocratic as the president or those at the federal level and expect the subordinate, the governors, now to be democratic as well. Because what's happening here is that the number one man, his body language is not exactly what he's saying. On one hand, you are saying, let's follow the rule of law. On the other hand, you are also flagrantly, disobeying what is enshrined in the Constitution on very sensitive national issues. And then you want the governors now to buy into what the governors feel that you just bought a judgment, because the people the court is now almost like a subservient to the federal. I mean, the judiciary is subservient to the executives. It's no longer independent, as it were. So the governors have a reason, which albeit is not important when we come to issue of governance. But you see, my point is, you cannot be undemocratic and insist that democratic tenets must be obeyed.
The actions of state governors now, giving directives to local government chairmen, is it undemocratic, or are they following the rule of law?
It is undemocratic. It is undemocratic. But you see,
are they not following the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
In Nigeria, Chike, you see, if you act, for instance, what happened in Rivers was a suspension of the Constitution. And it was done with all impunity. So these guys have the right to do the same. Because as it stands, the judiciary is within the control of certain individuals. And so once a matter comes into your domain, you decide how you deal with it. Because the rule of law is a question of who it applies to and when. So the concern is no longer the ground norm. It is as it applies to you, is when it's available to you, then you manipulate it and use it to achieve your end. And so it's a major concern, because in any country where the rule of law, any country that claims to practice democracy, and the rule of law is not held in high esteem, what you are doing, you are misrepresenting your country in a globalized world. Most nations are observing with a chagrin the way we are treating our democracy, as if we don't want it, as if we want it to get away from us easily. So rule of law cannot be undermined if we want this democracy to survive. If we want this democracy to outlive us, we cannot undermine it, because even most investors won't come to a country where there is no rule of law.
Well, before we delve into investors and coming into the country to fit into a system that is working, we're still talking about local government autonomy. It seems that we are only focusing on local financial autonomy for local governments, which it's deviating the Nigerian people from the crux of the matter. First of all, if you are granting local governments autonomy, are you also granting them electoral autonomy vis-a-vis INEC conducting their elections? Because if states still conduct elections for local governments, if governors still control the local government, the electoral commissions in the states, and also control interim chairmen, that's a caretaker chairman in the states, then how come local government autonomy will then fly?
Now, are states really autonomous as the Constitution enshrines it?
Well,
autonomy is a question of
the states are at least 95% autonomous, except that for the fact that out of all the commissioners in every state, it's only the commissioner of police that is not taking orders from the governor.
Chike, in very critical matters, you will see the federal might playing out in most states. That's not to say that the state do not have the very large extent its autonomy.
With what happened in Rivers State,
you see that in our own variant of democracy, the federal government has a lot of influence on the state, and so the state would not want a local government that will turn out being a rebel. They want to clip your wings, because one, you cannot have a different party, occupying your local governments from the main party that is the ruling party in the state. So the state want to ensure that the local governments are within their control, and the claim is always that it will aid development, it will aid easy communication and easy policy making and implementation. But of course, how do you expect democracy to grow in an environment where it is one party system? And that's exactly what the national party today is doing. So the states are copying exactly from what the party at the center is doing. So you don't want another party to take over your local government. So autonomy for local government is still a mirage. Because even the ones who have conducted local government elections, they were sworn in at the state council, at the state house, government house. Meanwhile, they were supposed to be sworn in at the local government. The councillors were the ones to be there to swear in these people. But it's not possible because the councillors are supposed to be the House of Assembly of the state now. The lawmakers are the local government council. And so you see that we are not serious when it comes to how we treat our democracy. And I've said again and again that the variant of Nigerian democracy is, you can't find it anywhere in the world. Because you can't find it. We mutilate any part of the democracy that we want to use, and as long as it is not going to serve us and serve our political party, serve our ethnic group, we mutilate it to make sure it works.
Are you saying that what we are seeing now is a democratic somersault of the Nigerian state? Is that what you're implying?
Well, yes. You see, I value the tenets of democracy, because whatever government system that we allow you, have justice on the table, have equity and fairness, have people being treated fairly, at least to a large extent, have your opinion, aired without excessively suppressing the people, have your rights being protected, have your dignity being preserved. We should treat it with dignity. We should ensure that it's preserved. But what we have found out is that Nigerian democracy is, you can't really name it democracy in the actual sense of democracy, from even the classical sense and even the contemporary sense. It's a variant you can't really explain, because the political scientists and sociologists have said
they
can't really pin it down to is amorphous.
Is that why Fela talked about our kind of democracy during his heydays? Fela is a saying prophet. It was a demonstration of something.
He's a prophet. He's a prophet. And today, all of us who are students of history and ethnomusicologists around the world have known that Fela spoke into the future of Nigeria. Not just the future of Nigeria. Today, a whole movement has evolved from his words, from his philosophical thinking. And a whole lot of social movement, have embraced his philosophy of what a nation should look like, using music to drive his point home. And we need more of him. And this morning I saw a clip, a release by Idris Abdul Karim, doing the same thing that Fela did when he was around, speaking truth to power, using the instrumentality of music. And it's wonderful, because you see, one way we should and we must continue to ensure that we archive what's happening today, because the political class are doing everything possible to ensure that this tree is eroded. So they know we are lazy to read, we are lazy to do research, we are lazy to ensure that we have the facts and keep them for our future. So people who are gifted, who are talented in music, should get these things into music. It will be archived. Social media will help us to keep it, so that 20, 50 years down the line, we can tell people, tell their grandchildren the role their fathers played in ensuring the damage and destroy democracy. We're masculating democracy as long as we are not allowing the rule of law to have its way.
All right, we'll go on a break, and when we come back, more talking points on local government autonomy. Stick around, don't go away.
Don't miss out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all our social media platforms, and watch Dominion Television today.
Welcome to Dominion Broadcast House, your channel of choice, for the best stories and the best songs, where inspiration meets entertainment.
From powerful stories to thought-provoking conversations, we bring you content that informs, entertains, and transforms.
Catch top-notch entertainment, including movies, talk shows, and insightful programs curated just for you.
Looking for cutting-edge documentaries, exclusive interviews, and lifestyle shows that matter? We have got it all.
Stay ahead with the latest trends, inspiring success stories, and must-watch TV moments only on Dominion Television.
Join a community that celebrates excellence, innovation, and African storytelling at its finest.
Don't miss out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all our social media platforms, and watch Dominion Television today.
All right, welcome back from that break. Still the agenda on Dominion TV. Remember to follow us on all our social media platforms on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It's at Dominion Broadcast, at Dominion Broadcast. However, on the app X, it's at Dominion Cast, at Dominion Cast. That's where you catch up on us and watch us live on YouTube too this lovely Tuesday morning. Right, my guest is still here in the studio, John Izuchukwu. John Izuchukwu is a public affairs analyst and also a researcher, a development researcher, and he's from the University of Ibadan. Well, we're still looking at these issues of local government autonomy. Now, we know there is a problem. We know that the kind of democracy we practice is not really giving us full insight to practicing the rule of law. However, for every problem, there is a solution. How do we solve this problem?
Yeah, it is not as simple as I would say it. But you see, the first thing is the political will. If the political class has the political will to ensure that we all obey the judgments from the court. The constitution is our ground norm. Is the length and the breadth and the height of what you can do. You cannot operate outside of the constitution. Regardless of your class, of your status, of your ethnic nationality. We all agreed, even though there are debates whether the constitution is, is acceptable, but whatever it is, there are countries who don't have as robust as what we have as constitution today. And the idea is the political class must set the pace. So the solution is the political will to, obey the constitution, regardless of how you feel per time. So the Supreme Court had given judgment. You may not like the Supreme Court. You may not like the way judgment has been delivered over the years, but if the Supreme Court has given judgment, the onus lies on all the leaders to obey the Supreme Court judgment. If you obey it, you see, most time there have been people who argue that the challenges will follow us in Nigeria, and I tell you the truth. My personal opinion is that leadership is everything. If leaders get it right, they will set the pace. Followers, you will just get it right. So you are not obeying the rule of law, and you expect me to obey the traffic rule. You are not obeying basic. This is fundamental to us, because if the local government are empowered to do what they are supposed to do, forget the fact that you are arguing they are going to steal money, they are going to embezzle money. Let them embezzle the money. Let there be a system in place that can hold them accountable. If you are afraid that they will become as powerful as you are, and then maybe displace you as a governor, why not put a system in place that can track them? So, but the simple matter is that we want to be too powerful. People want to get into power and remain in power forever. They've forgotten that power should be transient, and that's what it is.
So the marriage between our constitution now and the Supreme Court judgment, is it a healthy marriage? Or is it a marriage that is heading for divorce?
You see, we're not heading for divorce.
No, I mean the Constitution. And, the Constitution and the Supreme Court judgment.
Yes.
Now, is it a healthy marriage or a marriage that will be heading for divorce anytime soon?
You see, lawyers have a way of interpreting the Constitution and using the technicalities and the loopholes and the lacunas in the Constitution to take advantage of the Constitution. There are no countries where you really find absolutely, a constitution that is absolute in its sense. It is us that interpret and make meaning of what we have written down. So but when people bring in, take advantage of the lacunas of the loopholes to achieve their selfish interests, is a disservice to the nation. It's unpatriotic. Because even when you have your organizational constitutions, times evolve, systems evolve. So should you go back and be reviewing your organizational constitution every 2 years? But you see, we have to make it work. There's a sense that our leaders need to have, that if this democracy is going to work, we all must, I remember one of my great authors, Arnold Leisfat or so, yes, he talked about what is called the elite consensus. And it's unfortunate that in this part of the world, we may never get it. Because the elite need to come together to say, we'll get Nigeria to work.
Okay, so talking about the elite consensus, after reading that book, I came to a conclusion that even the people, the elites in Africa, don't even know who they are. It's a misplaced identity. So how can there be a consensus? I think we need. I need to tell people to go through that book, The Elite Consensus. After reading that book, you understand that it's just a facade, calling yourselves elites.
Chike, let me disagree with you. There is some sort of elite consensus.
Okay, in Africa.
In Nigeria, let's deal with Nigeria. There is some sort of elite consensus. You see, look at what's happening in the polity today. Look at what happened in the National Assembly. There's some sort of consensus. It's just that it's not consensus towards development. It's consensus to
then there's no elite building. Then there's no elite consensus in that sense. That's what I'm going to.
What I'm saying is, it may not be consensus towards development, but it's consensus towards building an hegemony, building an empire, building a stronghold.
Building a cabal.
Exactly. There's somewhat.
Then that is not an elite. That's not an elite consensus, because elite consensus is supposed to do what? Deal with development and growth of the people.
I've said to you that in Nigeria, the very democracy we practice is not practiced anywhere in the world. So we take a federal system and then thwart it, mutilate it to suit what the political class wants. So when you see elite consensus, the author of the book intends that our political class will gather together and say, henceforth, we want development. And we all must have a minimum contribution toward this development. Our greed must go down. Our appetite for power must be regulated within the constitution. But what we have is, you must get power by snatching it, by grabbing it, by bullying everybody. And once you do that, you buy INEC, you buy the judiciary, and you just get to power. So when you get to power, you want to be a Democrat. It's not possible.
All right, let's go through some messages on social media here. On Facebook, we have Emmanuel Udo Mene saying CBN should credit the allocation in the name of each local government, and CBN awaiting signatories and documentations for local government officials. Well, this is really not clear, but here Christian Oloche is saying local government autonomy. Nigeria politicians are the most dangerous and smooth criminals in the world. After spending 8 years as governor, they become saints by force and start talking about full local government autonomy as if they were not there to grant it before. Right? This other person here, Olatokumbo Alex, is saying the governors are the real enemy of the poor. These are the people that make the gains of the subsidy removal useless, even when they get more allocation. Okay, so we're looking at more comments here. And Bamofi Muiwa Kushimo, we are only focusing on the financial autonomy of the local government without considering the fact that the local government needs complete and full autonomy in all ramifications. Okay, local government autonomy is a mirage that may not see the reality of the day, simply because, if considered, Hence, the local government chairman will end up becoming mini gods. Issues of public accountability and massive corruption may erupt, yet grassroots development, which is a primary focus of local government, may elude us. You agree with this social media user?
Well, I do not agree with him, because the idea of local government autonomy is to bring development to grassroots. And so we must continue to push it until it is achieved. And that's why I believe in engagement. We cannot take to violence to achieve it. We must continue this engagement. Continue this engagement until the voice of reasoning will prevail. But if we all keep quiet and think it's normal, then it will continue. But we must continue the conversation very strongly so that we get to this. We get to the point where it is now being implemented. All
right, Jacob Zomotayo is saying the governors have come out of their shell to show that they are Nigerians' biggest challenge, a nightmare and problem. They have eaten local government to the bones and are still holding on to it as if it is their inheritance. The constitution is faulty, so faulty. It is also very unfortunate that the president is handcuffed by his second-term ambition, making him look incapacitated. We were and still in big trouble with the governors. See, Yaya Bello is still resident in the government house. As what? Well, do you know if Yaya Bello is still in the government house?
I don't know, but you see, from what's happening in recent time, it's clear that the present governor Ododo is just is his boy, is his puppet, and so you don't expect anything better.
You know, how can a sitting governor be a puppet to a non-sitting governor, maybe a former governor?
Why is the whole hula baloo that we were experiencing in Rivers? Because a sitting governor do not, even though he's still a puppet, but don't want to be puppet in its entirety. Because if you ask me, he has not shown strength. He has appeared weak, and because he does not want to confront the father, the godfather. So was it the guys who brought you to power? You served them for 8 years. They are still in government, determining what you do, how much you remit to the state government. I mean, is that what exactly is that? You're not the governor. You're not the governor, so you have to deliver yourself from their hands, and it means you have to rise up to challenge the governor, your godfather. And you part ways, because that's why betrayal will continue in the political arena.
John Izuchukwu is talking about deliverance. Who will deliver Ododo? He talked about deliverance. Okay, I think some preacher man needs to start delivering our political gladiators in the country, especially those who have been fathered by some elements called the Godfather. Well, let's go on another break. We'll be back in a bit. Stick around. Don't go away. It's the agenda on Dominion TVA.
Welcome to Dominion Broadcast House, your channel of choice, with the best stories and the best songs, where inspiration meets entertainment.
From powerful stories to thought-provoking conversations, we bring you content that informs, entertains, and transforms.
Catch top-notch entertainment, including movies, talk shows, and insightful programs curated just for you.
Looking for cutting-edge documentaries, exclusive interviews, and lifestyle shows that matter? We have got it all.
Stay ahead with the latest trends, inspiring success stories, and must-watch TV moments only on Dominion Television.
Join a community that celebrates excellence, innovation, and African storytelling at its finest.
Don't miss out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all our social media platforms, and watch Dominion Television today.
Welcome back. We're still talking local government autonomy here on Dominion TV, live from Iyagoku here in Ibadan, the capital of Oyo State. Oyo State is one of those states in the southwest region of Nigeria. Have you followed us on our social media platforms? Kindly follow us on our social media platforms for you to be abreast with all that is happening here in the studio. On YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, it's at Dominion Broadcast. At Dominion Broadcast on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And on the app X is at Dominion Cast. At Dominion Cast. At Dominion Cast. Well, some more messages here on social media, on Facebook precisely. It says, how is it possible that governors will prevent or block another arm of government from taking constitutional steps in a bid to strengthen democratic practice? Why are the governors refusing to let go? Is it not clear then that they have something to hide or that their free pocket money is being threatened? I'm aware that parts of the reason for resistance to the local government autonomy by governors is that their political base would be seriously threatened. Well, it's a long read here from Frank Ududo here, and Samson Elvis Okpanachi saying state governors are the major obstacle hindering development in Nigeria. Are they really the major obstacles hindering development in Nigeria?
Well, that is his opinion, but they are a major one, because when you say local government autonomy, what you're saying is power should be given to the people at the grassroots.
Okay.
And any attempt to oppose it, it means you are an enemy of the grassroots. And so but a thought just ran through my mind. How do CBN or the federal government need the permission of governors to open account for the local government?
Okay, so
it's still the shenanigan of the political class.
But when you look at the Constitution of
the hypocrisy government.
If you look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you find out that the state and the federal government are under the executive or exclusive list, right? Mm-hmm. So where is the local government arm?
There is 3 tiers of government.
Of course.
So why should the final tier depend on the state?
Because it's an appendix of the state.
So the Constitution also provides that they should have their money. So I'm saying that it's not logical.
The Constitution.
It's not logical.
Okay, I hope we'll be getting section 162, subsection 5678 on the screen shortly of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where we'll be seeing what it really showcases.
Now, this is my point.
What it really showcases.
You cannot, on one stretch, say that the local government should be autonomous. And they should conduct their own elections. And caretaker committee is no longer allowed or permissible for easy running of local government. And on one hand, you are saying they should not have an account. So how would they run local government? So the question is, I think that there's some level of hypocrisy between the federal government and the state government, because if you are going to implement that judgment in its holistic form, the federal government should go ahead and open the account. In fact, as of this morning, I read from the Punch that it was a Delta state had opened an account. It's the only state that submitted its own account. So the governors are just harassing, intimidating the local government chairman for those who have conducted local government elections. I think that you cannot continue to be puppet all the days of your life. The governor should go ahead. I mean, the local government chairman should go ahead and submit the accounts, and let's take it up from there. Then you keep going to court, because that's the next thing. They want to block the account, then you go to court. So you don't want to, you have been elected by the people. If truly you are elected by the local government, by your constituents, so you have a duty as a local government chairman to stand up to defend what should be theirs, because without resources you will not be able to deliver on developmental projects to your constituents. So I think that the local government chairman should rise up to this occasion and be a man. But you see, again, it's hard because Nigerian politicians they are always anticipating the next office.
Okay, so let me read out section 162 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended 1999. Subsection 5. I start from subsection 5. It says the amount standing to the credit of local government councils in the federation account shall also be allocated to the states for the benefit of their local government councils on such terms and in such manner as may be prescribed by the National Assembly. We also have here subsection 6. Each state shall maintain a special account to be called State Joint Local Government Account, into which shall be paid all allocations to the local government councils of the state from the federation account and from the government of the state. We also have here subsection 7 stating each state shall pay to local government councils in its area of jurisdiction such proportion of its total revenue on such terms and in such manner as may be prescribed by the National Assembly. And then subsection 8 here says the amount standing to the credit of local government councils of a state shall be distributed among the local government councils of the state on such terms and in such manner as may be prescribed by the House of Assembly of the state.
Now, there's a new judgment by the Supreme Court.
Without the review of the Constitution?
No.
The Constitution is still binding as long as it's not reviewed.
If the governors had obeyed a part of that judgment, which says elections must be conducted to all offices of local government, given a particular date, and that was done.
Because it's not enshrined in the Constitution. So they have to obey the court order.
That's the point. It's not an order. It's a judgment.
Yes, it's a judgment.
That has been delivered.
They have to obey the judgment because it is not enshrined in the Constitution.
No. You see, Chike, I'm not a lawyer. But when we look at issues logically, you cannot pick and choose in a judgment. A judgment was delivered and is assumed that, okay, we have accepted this judgment, and you went ahead to start implementing part of that judgment.
However,
and you got to certain part of that judgment, and you say you're not implementing
some people have come to say that that's part of the judgment that was implemented by the state governors, which is the conduction of election within the states, within local government areas in the state. It's not enshrined in Constitution, so they had to obey that. However, the issue of local government financial autonomy, which the judgment also came up with, has a variance with what is in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
You should not have obeyed any part of that judgment, because the Supreme Court is the high court in the land, and it has given its judgment, and you cannot do anything about it. You can't do anything about it. The Supreme Court has given its judgment, and you have obeyed a part of that judgment. Onus lies on you. Now, why did they run to conduct elections? Because they were told, the judgment says, without conducting an election, you're not entitled to any fund.
All right, let's see section 162, subsection 5 to 8 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on the screen, so you get more insight to what we're saying. If you look at section 8, it says the amount standing to the credit of local government councils of a state shall be distributed among the local government councils of that state on such terms, in such manner as may be prescribed by the House of Assembly of the state. So, this is the Constitution.
Yes, but the Supreme Court had given a judgment, and you cannot repeal it.
But that judgment stays. Did the Supreme Court interpret this part of the Constitution?
Of course, what they did was to say that henceforth, going forward, the House of Assembly do not have the right anymore to bring up any impediment or to design any policy that will determine whether the resource is given or is allocated to local government or not.
You talked about obeying the rule of law. So if we are going to obey the rule of law, why don't you think that the National Assembly should review the Constitution so as to be in tandem with some of these judgments that we get?
You obeyed the rule. You obeyed the Supreme Court judgment while we begin to work on reviewing the Constitution. If you start reviewing the Constitution today, it may take the next 20 years.
Are you saying we should imbibe the military parallels, saying obey before complain?
No.
That's what you're saying.
The Supreme Court is the highest court in the land.
Okay.
And
the Constitution is what?
No, the Constitution guides what we do.
Okay.
The Constitution determines what we do. Now, the Supreme Court, the learned justices in their wisdom,
Okay.
have looked at if development is going to reach the grassroots, we need to do something expedient.
Okay, we have to go. We have to go. All right. Well, more conversations ongoing, and we'll also have more tomorrow. Well, this local government autonomy is not something we just end this way. It's a continuous discussion, a continuous dialogue for the betterment of the Nigerian state. Thank you for being there, and thank you, John Izuchukwu, for being on the agenda this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. The agenda comes your way again tomorrow. The time is 9 a.m. My name is Chike Ogbogu. Bye for now.
Welcome to Dominion Broadcast House, your channel of choice, for the best stories and the best songs, where inspiration meets entertainment.
From powerful stories to thought-provoking conversations, we bring you content that informs, entertains, and transforms.
Catch top-notch entertainment, including movies, talk shows, and insightful programs curated just for you.
Looking for cutting-edge documentaries, exclusive interviews, and lifestyle shows that matter? We have got it all.
Stay ahead with the latest trends, inspiring success stories, and must-watch TV moments only on Dominion Television.
Join a community that celebrates excellence, innovation, and African storytelling at its finest.
Don't miss out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all our social media platforms, and watch Dominion Television today.